Hello again. Most people don't know about two very serious problems all RO drinking water systems have. It isn't talked about much, although it should be. The fact it isn't is why most RO drinking water system owners have never heard about these two problems. If the SD5 didn't solve both of them, it would not be a replacement for automatic electric steam distillers. So the purpose of this video is to explain what those two problems are, why they're so serious and affect everyone using RO drinking water systems today, and how the SD5 steamless distiller, even though it uses RO membranes and could have fallen victim to the exact same problems, instead completely avoids both. The easiest way to understand how both problems come about is to first understand how an RO membrane works. Very simply, water under pressure is forced through a membrane that blocks 90 to 95% of contaminants when the membrane is new or relatively new. So it's important to imagine this to understand. The clean side now has only 5 to 10% of the contaminants that the raw water started out with getting through, and that gets sent to the storage tank. Meanwhile, the dirty side of the membrane has a heavy buildup of contaminants that aren't getting through, and that gets constantly washed away and down the drain. This is why under-sink ROs use huge amounts of water that go down the drain to keep the dirty side of the membrane clean. The first problem is something called TDS creep. TDS stands for total dissolved solids, measured in parts per million, ppm. You may think your RO system is removing 90 to 95% of contaminants, meaning if your raw water has 200 parts per million TDS starting out, the 5 to 10% getting past the membrane puts 10 to 20 parts per million TDS water in the storage tank. 10% of 200 is 20, 5% is 10. But because of TDS creep, your system is likely only removing 75% or less, not the 90 to 95% you thought it was. You heard that right. Instead of 10 to 20 parts per million, your storage tank is actually full of water with 50 parts per million TDS or more. I'll explain how this happens, but depending on the contaminants in someone's raw water, this can be a very serious health problem and something that would totally destroy the performance of the SD5 and kill its ability to replace electric steam distillers. Here's how it happens. Every time the RO unit cycles off when the tank is full, all that water flowing down the drain, carrying contaminants with it, suddenly stops. Now there's a high concentration of contaminants sitting stagnant on the dirty side of the membrane, and it immediately starts migrating back through the membrane to the clean side. This happens if the unit is sitting idle for an hour or two or all night. When the unit eventually cycles back on, the first water coming off the clean side, refilling the storage tank, can typically be as dirty as the raw water was to begin with. Think about that for a minute. It can take 5 minutes or so to go from essentially zero contaminant removal back to the 90 to 95% you assumed your unit was always delivering. It's called TDS creep because every time the unit cycles on and off, yet another small slug of dirty water further contaminates the storage tank when it turns on. The TDS keeps creeping higher and higher over time every time the unit cycles, day after day, week after week, month after month. So that's TDS creep, and you end up with much dirtier water in the storage tank than most people incorrectly assume. The second problem is bacteria. We know for a fact that bacteria grows in dirty RO membranes without exception. Think about what I just described. Membranes sitting stagnant and dirty multiple times a day and overnight, night after night, month after month, year after year. Today's under-counter RO systems are bacteria breeding machines. Dirty membranes breed bacteria. Manufacturers know about this, and for that reason, some offer optional UV and ozone stages designed to kill bacteria. The only problem? Dead bacteria doesn't taste any better than living bacteria. You can add a carbon block filter between the tank and the pure water tap for taste, but eventually the bacteria population becomes so large inside the RO unit that filter needs replacing far more often than anyone would find convenient. So how does the SD5 solve both problems? Simply by providing a 2-gallon pure water flush tank. The smaller tank shown in this picture, every time the unit cycles off, my unit's 5 RO membranes get backwashed with high-grade purified water, leaving them so clean there's no measurable TDS creep and no overnight bacteria growth. Simple as that. All under-counter ROs also suffer a third problem. They all waste 5 to 15 gallons of water for every 1 gallon delivered to the storage tank. That's a very big deal to anyone like me who lives where water is scarce. So I'm very proud to say the SD5 cuts that down to just 1/2 gallon, making it 10 to 30 times more water efficient than today's under-counter ROs. And when compared to the most common ROs, those without booster pumps, 20 to 30 times more water efficient. Think about how much water the SD5 saves. Over 99% contaminant removal. In this photo, 420 parts per million TDS in and only 1 part per million out is actually 99.75% removal, as good or better than steam distilled water, without the electricity costs or labor-intensive maintenance of water distillers. Far more efficient than under-counter ROs in both purity and water usage. No TDS creep, no bacteria, no compromises. That's the SD5 Steamless Distiller. And I'm so proud and excited to be here to tell you about it. I hope you enjoy the website. And in the videos that follow, I'll show you exactly why it's the right choice for your specific application.